Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to that like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies, real legend. If you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. We've been sprinkling in conference previews over the past few weeks: ACC, SEC, Big 12, Big 10. So now the last of the 5 power conferences in men's college basketball is the Big East, where UConn is picked as the favorite in the league and ranked 3rd in the preseason AP poll, but still being disrespected according to future Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame coach Dan Hurley. So let's stop here. Norlander, you sat down with Dan in New York earlier in the week, Big East Media Day. Tell us why he thinks UConn should be ranked 1st, not 3rd in the preseason AP poll, even though the Huskies are returning just one starter from last season's national championship winning team.
Yeah, this is the good morning, GP. This is the rare conference preview pod episode where we are doing it after not just the media day has happened, but we have been in attendance there. Of course, we did our Big Ten one at actual Big Ten media day there. We would have done the similar with Big East, but GP was obviously at Big 12 media day. So I did sit down with Hurley, and by the way, you can, if you have not listened in yet in the feed, go ahead and scroll back. You'll see that we've got 3 interview episodes. Hurley's involved in one of those, and you can also watch all of the sit downs I had with coaches and Commissioner Val Ackerman at Big East. That's on our YouTube page, and Nada's uploaded some. I think the rest of them are going up on Friday and over the weekend. So if you just want to watch me talk to Greg McDermott, you can go do that on the YouTube page, or you can listen to it therein. But from sitting down with Hurley, which by the way, I appreciate him making the time, guys, the most popular coach in America. Obviously, he was on Good Morning America. He ran late. I wanted to get to plenty more with him, but we got him for 9 minutes because he gave the media probably an additional 40 to 45 minutes when he could have technically bounced out of there. So do appreciate him making time, because everyone obviously wants a piece of the reigning 2-time national champion and obviously coach of the year. So in the midst of that interview, his reasoning kind of tracks with what you and I have said for a long time in terms of how we designate the national champion. We like to say reigning national champion and not defending national champion. His mind goes to a heavyweight fighter that basically they hold that he is defending it, that they are holding on to it, and they deserve the benefit of the doubt and the preseason #1 ranking until someone takes it from him. He thinks that his program has earned that right, and he's certainly has the right to say that. I understand where he's coming from on that, but at the same time, he's also going to look for anything that he can possibly get to motivate himself, motivate his players, because at current moment for UConn, they are getting, I think, as deservedly so, a ton of respect, a lot of expectations. As I told Dan when I sat down and talked with him, I actually don't know if there are many, if any other programs or coaches that would be given this much of the benefit of the doubt as UConn when you look at how much they lost. Now, Hurley's case was, well, when you look at what we lost the year before and how those pieces that stepped up and became the team that we had last season, what they had really done, aren't we kind of in a similar position? I would argue no, because even a year ago, a team that became even better, and sure, you had Steph Castle, you had Cam Spencer. Those are not proven commodities at UConn. You still had some important players, most notably Donovan Clingan, that was coming back, that had played, significant roles on a championship winning team before. Now you just have Alex Caravan. That's like Samson Johnson. Yes, he got in the game. They have guys who got some spot minutes, but there are a lot of players that are going to step into new roles this season. And so I have them preseason 4. You've got them, preseason 5. They were clearly the unanimous pick in the league. The coaches are mandated to obviously vote for someone. Hurley voted for Marquette, which kind of keeps in line with his theory, because Marquette, over the past couple of years under Shaka Smart, has been the second best program in the league. So I get where he's coming from with that. But that's basically where we are with UConn and what's going to be a highly tracked season for the Huskies. And I think that UConn and whatever happens with Cooper Flagg, to me, as we head into the season, those are the 2 biggest deals, the biggest stories, the things to track, the things that will be discussed by the most people in college hoops into November.
I would also have it in that order. UConn 1, Marquette 2 in the Big East. So Dan and I are on the same page there. We're not on the same page with the approach to how you should look at a college basketball team heading into a new season. Um, how about this? I couldn't disagree with him more. I love that he thinks that way. That both of those things can be true. I couldn't disagree with him more. I love that he thinks that way, because that he thinks that way is what makes him great. It is what makes him the man who our panel of voters earlier in the week voted the best college basketball coach in the country. Bill Self had held that title in our annual voting for multiple years recently, but after Dan wins back-to-back national championships, I think understandably, he was the leading vote getter this season. If you're a boxer, you are actually defending something. Like if you're Mike Tyson in his heyday, you beat Michael Spinks. If you would have lost to Michael Spinks, you would have lost your title. But you beat Michael Spinks, so you take your title to the next match. That's Frank Bruno. If you lose to Frank Bruno, you lose your belt. But if you beat Frank Bruno, you get to keep it, and then you go and fight Carl Williams, and you can do the rest on Wikipedia. In college basketball, it doesn't matter what happens to UConn this season. UConn will forever be the 2024 NCAA Tournament champions, will forever be the 2023 NCAA Tournament champions. They're not defending anything. Those things will be theirs forever. Beyond that, just to continue with the boxing analogy, when you are Mike Tyson fighting Michael Spinks, when you get into the ring the next time against Frank Bruno, you're still Mike Tyson. You're a little older, but you're still the same thing. UConn is not going to be the same thing heading into this season. Obviously, they only returned one starter, Alex Karabin. So I actually think I'm with you. I don't think it's disrespectful that UConn isn't number one in the preseason AP poll. I think it is the ultimate compliment to Dan and his staff and to what that program has accomplished over the past 2 years that they're actually third in the AP poll, because I'm with you. I don't think there's another program in America, another coaching staff in America that could lose as much as they lost, enroll what they enrolled, and still be ranked third in a preseason AP poll, which brings me to trivia time.
Let's go.
When is the last time a school was ranked this high in the preseason AP poll after winning a national championship?
Okay, regardless of the roster situation. So win a title, and then next year they come back and they're at least top 5 in the AP?
Top 3 in the AP.
Top 3 in the AP, excuse me. That's a good trivia question. My only hint I want here is, has it happened in this century?
Yes.
Okay. The way that you said that makes me want to say October of 2001 Duke. Give me 3 guesses. That's my first one.
It has happened more recently than that.
Okay. Do you know if Duke did apply to that in 01-02 or no?
I started from this season and went backwards till I found it.
Got it. Okay,
and it didn't go back that far.
I wonder if Duke did apply in 01-02. Okay.
I mean, obviously, the second Florida championship team was a preseason number 1 after winning a title. They brought back all 5 starters, so it's got to be more recent than
Kansas lost a lot. It wouldn't have been 09 Carolina, 2010 Duke. I can't see it. 2011 UConn, no. 2012 Kentucky with, although they had, that will be my guess. That is my, give me 3 guesses. That's guess number 2 is 2012-13 Kentucky coming off the 2012 title.
Possible, but it happened more recently than that.
Okay. Wow. Okay. 2013 Louisville, I'll say they didn't do it. 14 UConn definitely didn't do it. 15 Kentucky coming off that. All right. I don't think it'll be Nova.
By the way, Kentucky did not win the 2015 championship. Probably should have.
That's right.
Should have. Probably should have. But
thank you. Yeah. Sorry, Kentucky fans. Just gave you another title.
Well, they deserve it. I think they got like $1 billion.
I don't think Duke
like $1 billion in contract. I think they deserve it.
This is a great trivia time, GP. You know what? I will say. Was it though? All right, this is gonna be wrong. I'll say it was Kansas a couple years. I'll say it was Kansas just a couple years ago.
Kansas won the title in 2022, was ranked 5th in the preseason poll the next season. The correct answer, Louisville won the title in 2013
really?
and was 3rd in the preseason poll the next season. But listen to what Louisville brought back.
Okay.
And maybe this will just illustrate how much of the benefit of the doubt UConn is getting to also be ranked 3rd in the AP poll heading into this season. Louisville wins the title in 2013. They bring back 3 starters, Russ Smith, Wayne Blackshear, Shane Bohannon, plus for reserves from that title team, Luke Hancock and Montrezl Harrell. That's what Louisville brought back, and they were 3rd. UConn brings back Alex Karaban. I mean, I know other pieces, but of the starters, just one. How about this? Like, you could just look at any of these. Baylor wins the title in 2021, 8th in the preseason poll the next year. Virginia wins the title in 2019, 11th in the preseason poll the following year. Villanova wins the title in 2018, 9th in the preseason poll the following year. Carolina wins it in 17, 9th in the preseason poll the following year. Villanova wins it in 16, 4th in the preseason poll the following year. Duke wins it in 2015, 5th in the preseason poll the following year. UConn wins it in 2014, 17th in the preseason poll the following year. Then you get to Louisville. Wins it in 2013, 3rd in the preseason poll the following season. So, again, I love that Dan takes this approach. It is what makes him excellent. But the truth is, UConn returning so little and being this high in the AP poll and the clear favorite in the Big East is a testament to what people actually think of Dan and that staff and what that program's been doing. It's a ultimate tip of the hat. Nobody else would be getting this type of benefit of the doubt.
I agree. Obviously, UConn leads my storylines. We will get to that in just a second, but as per usual, as per custom, Nada, can we get a word from our partners, please?
It's a team almost too good to be true.
You guys ain't ready for us.
Kick your game day off right as the Tops team tackles all the biggest headlines around the league.
Who's got 2 thumbs and loves this next segment?
Sunday mornings on CBS Sports Network.
All right, Matt Norlander, it's conference preview time. That means you got 5 storylines. Bounce us through them, and I'll see if I got something to say.
All right. The first one is, will UConn truly dominate the league? We've covered the Huskies plenty here. They won the league by 4 games last season, by the way. Now, they didn't win it the year before. They won the title, but they did not win Big East 2 seasons ago. In fact, it was Marquette that won it. Xavier was 15-5 that season. Creighton was 14-6. UConn, as a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, was 13-7 and tied with Providence the year that they won their first title under Dan Hurley. And then last year, 37-3. They went 21-2 against league competition when you account for the Big East tournament there. So with this roster that they have, led by Alex Karaban, Liam McNeely, a lot of expectations on the freshman coming in. Certainly the most heralded freshman in the entire conference. We'll get to our player, freshman, and transfer of the year picks at the end of this Big East segment here. But it's more than just that. You've got Aiden Mahaney, who comes in from St. Mary's, Hassan Diarra. I think there's a curiosity whether both of those share a lot of time on the floor versus one or the other. And I've heard good things about both, but I think Diarra might be the better point guard to really run and initiate that offense. I'm intrigued to see what happens there. You've got to fill the void in the middle. Terrace Reed comes over from Michigan. Not a proven quantity at the high major level at this point. Like, he's got a lot of potential, but it's not like he's been a stat monster or anything like that recently. And then Samson Johnson already knows this program, has played in it, and now he's going to see a huge minute spike and should be a quality rim protector there. So we wait and see on how UConn develops kind of across the board. Solomon Ball, Jalen Stewart are the 2 guys that have a really good shot. Neither of them made our preseason top 101 list, but I think both of them have a chance to be 2, or if one of them breaks out more than the other, worthy of being on that list by the time we get to season end. We just haven't seen what they've done yet. But I know that there's a lot of expectations there, and it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if those guys really emerge as some vital playmakers, and arguably nearly as important to say a Caravan. So UConn dominating is clearly storyline number 1. Storyline 2, kind of what I wrote about on my column coming out of Midtown Manhattan earlier this week, and that was the Big East only got 3 bids last season. It tied for the lowest in the history of the league. This is now the 45th year of the Big East, and this is an 11-team conference. It is the only high major conference in college basketball to have fewer than 16 teams. The SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12 obviously all have between 16 and 18. That can very much work in the Big East's favor, in my estimation, when it comes to how the league collectively is power ranked, because you don't have as many teams dragging down your bottom. And so that can really benefit the Big East, I think, moving this season. But yeah, this is clearly going to be a year where the coaches are going to try and atone for not getting in after Seton Hall, Providence, and St. John's all were left out, and you had this gap, this chasm where UConn was a 1, Marquette was a 2, Creighton was a 3, and then no one else made the tournament there. Now, how many bids will the Big East get in 2025? That is a segment that we will get to right here, right quick. But real quick, GP, do you agree with me that because the Big East does not have as many teams, and the Big 12 benefited from this for many years when it was a 10-team league, that it should be able to see its collective power ranking benefit from that, provided that you don't have a lot of teams taking, odd Q3, dare I say Q4 losses in non-conference play?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, but like when you only have this many teams, you can't have Georgetown down there at 192 and DePaul down there at 304. That's where they were at KenPom last season. Like if you go to
right, but Big East was number 2 at KenPom despite that last season. I'll just let you know it was the second best conference in the country, even with that happening.
Right. Like you got to bring the bottom up. Like you can't have those down there that far. Like in the Big 12 last year, you had only 2 outside of the top 70 and none lower than 144. Again, in the Big East, you had 2 outside of the top 190. So and one of those is like one of your proudest and biggest brands. Like they and has hired one of the more accomplished and respected coaches in the sport over the past, decade or so. Like that should get fixed. But the league is stronger than the number of bids it got to the NCAA tournament would suggest last season. And I don't mind admitting this, during the season leading up to Selection Sunday, I could easily, and I think we did, point out why the Big East was at risk of only getting, say, 3 bids to the NCAA tournament. But with the benefit of hindsight, it does seem kind of ridiculous that league only got 3 bids. I can that's where the national champion came from. That's where the NIT champion came from.
It is, yes, yeah.
And I'm not trying to, bang on another conference, but the idea that the Mountain West got more bids to the Big East, just broadly speaking, I understand how you can make sense of it when you sit down and really quadrant 1, quadrant 2 it to death. But just on a very surface level, the Mountain West getting more bids to the NCAA tournament than the Big East seems kind of silly with the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, twice as many, by the way. Good year for the Mountain West, but yeah. And when I talked with Val Ackerman, she accurately surmise that how this works and we can move on after this because this happened last March, but regardless, you have all these 12 committee members in a room. They all vote privately and they all have their own preference. And what wound up happening is teams just 3 or 4 people on the committee put St. John's maybe right near that cut line. Some had Providence, some had Seton Hall. They took votes away from each other, and then they all wound up being left out as a result of that. Whereas, as Hackerman told me, she's like, it probably should have been something along the lines of, someone's getting up there saying something. And for all I know, maybe that happened. Barry Collier, now the retired Butler athletic director, was on the committee. And all it takes is to say, hey, listen, we've got 3 Big East teams here. Like, does this make sense to us? Why not Seton Hall? Won 13 games in league play, although the league record has nothing to do with whether you get in, but it was one of only 3 teams to defeat Connecticut last season. I don't think Klingon played in that game. Anyway, the point is you needed something like that to happen. It didn't. Credit to Seton Hall for responding to that snub. They were the second team left out. I believe they were ahead of Providence and the Johnnies in the pecking order, and they go on to win an NIT championship and now are not predicted to do that well in the conference, although I think they will outpace that preseason prediction. Storyline 3. Speaking of St. John's, Rick Pitino and his push and what happens here in year 2 for St. John's. What's this going to look like? How good can they be? Will they not even flirt with being on the bubble? I love them a lot. We've talked about that on a recent episode. By bringing in Kaderi Richmond and Davon Smith from Seton Hall and Utah, respectively, I think that those two are going to be in the mix to be first-team all-league level kind of players there. In addition to RJ Lewis, who's a good player, Simeon Wilcher, expected to be among the breakout sophomores of note nationally across the sport. They brought in Vincent Iwuchukwu from USC. Him playing along in the front court with Zubi Ejiofor. There's a lot of good pieces there, but how's it going to go for Pitino in year 2? You know, he told me in the sit down on Wednesday that offensively this team should be eventually what it was last season, but defensively, actually, this group is kind of further along than the year ago when we know what happened there. What are your thoughts on the Johnnies?
Well, if Rick doesn't take them to the NCAA tournament this season, it will be the first time since before he was coaching at Providence that he hasn't taken his school to the NCAA tournament by at least the second year he was eligible to do so. So you have to frame it like that because of the stuff he walked into at Kentucky to the Final Four. At Kentucky, in the first year he was eligible for the tournament, which was technically year 3, he went to the Elite 8. In the second year he was eligible, he went to the Final Four. Louisville in year 2 went to the round of 32 of the NCAA tournament. Iona in year 1, he was in the round of 64. Obviously, St. John's last season just on the wrong side of the bubble. Everybody has him projected to get there this season. That would fall in line with his career pattern. Obviously, getting Richmond out of the transfer portal is massive. They added enough talent and brought back enough from the previous team. You know, combine it with a Hall of Fame coach. Yes, I don't have St. John's in my preseason top 25 and 1, but like they're right there. If it was a top 30, they would be in that for sure.
Storyline 4 is Villanova, and I think what's fair to say the hot seat situation with Kyle Neptune there, only because if Nova doesn't make the NCAA tournament, I find it hard to believe he'd be there for year 4. Now, what's intriguing about the preseason projections on Nova is this: 48th at Evan Mia. I got him. I think I got Nova at 50 in my rankings. Torvik has Nova at 43. Ken Palm's got Villanova 20th in the country heading into the season. So if the Wildcats wind up pitting, let us not forget that at least our bud Ken and his algorithm has been pretty high on them entering the season. Eric Dixon returning, I think, is fairly critical because I think he is a stabilizing force and a necessary presence on this team to give it a chance to be a top 5 team in the Big East overall. I get conflicting opinions on Dixon's value overall. He made our top 101 list. I know he did. And he's a good player, but I don't know if he's like an upper end player in terms of value overall, but he can step up and be reliable moments. We've got him 22 on our list. That's too high for me personally, but I get it. He's going to mean a ton. They got Luka Poplar in from the portal, which was essentially a necessary addition alongside Jordan Longino coming back, and he's going to be a key piece as well. But it's Villanova, and if you're going to maintain your reputation and your stature, and certainly just what the fan base has grown accustomed to, what the standard should be, then it's got to be a big season. They went 17-17 in year 1 under Neptune, and then last season they were 18-16. Both of those years were 10-10 regular season deployments in the Big East. They won 1 game in the Big East tournament last season against DePaul. They won 1 game in the Big East tournament the year before against Georgetown. So they have not accrued or notched a notable win in postseason play yet. It's a big season for them on the main line there, and they do have some interesting non-conference opponents. They got to play at St. Joe's. St. Joe's going to be good. Virginia, we wait and see on what happens there. They play Maryland. They've got Cincinnati. So they've got certainly NCAA tournament level teams awaiting them in the first few weeks of the season. And I just don't know, GP. This is a very intriguing
Hmm.
situation within this league.
Now, you tell me which computer's right. I'll tell you whether Cal Neptune's going to get a fourth year at Villanova. If Kim Palm's right, he'll be there. If what's the computer that had him 50th or so? Is that
Yeah.
Evan Mia?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
had 48.
Yeah. Okay. If that one is right, then you got it's a little dicier. Um, it is worth noting that Kim Palm does have him 20th. It's also worth noting that in year one under Cal Neptune, they started 19th, finished 51st, picked third in the Big East, finished tied for sixth. Last season, started 23rd at Ken Palm, finished 37th, picked fourth in the Big East, finished tied for sixth. You know, before Jay Wright retired, Villanova made 9 straight NCAA tournaments. Since Jay Wright retired, they've made 0. I mean, these are just big problems. You know, when you were handed the keys to something that was on cruise control and rocking and rolling, your job is to keep it there. And, you know, respectfully, so far, Kyle hasn't been able to do that. And I don't think there's any question he enters this season with a lot of pressure. He hasn't run anything into the ground or embarrassed in, you know, but it hasn't been what it was, and it hasn't been what it was supposed to be. And that probably needs to get turned around this season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Storyline 5 is I wasn't quite sure where to go with this, but I think I'm going to land on Xavier. The Musketeers had a down season last season, kind of a forgotten season in some ways. They had a variety of health issues that impacted that, obviously, overall. And now we'll get kind of the rundown on the whole league here in a sec. But Xavier was a very close third place pick in the league, narrowly behind Creighton, UConn, obviously number 1 there. And I think they've got a chance to not just be good again. I think it's fair to expect them to be good, although they've dealt with a preseason injury. But Sean Miller and bringing in a transfer that I know Xavier fans are familiar with, but Ryan Conwell from Indiana State, he is potentially going to have Sule Boom type of impact overall. You get Jerome Hunter back, who had a heart issue. He did not play last season. Zach Fremantle has dealt with a variety of injuries, and now he's going to play his final season. Davion McKnight, a very steady, heady lead guard. There's real reason to have a lot of optimism with Xavier, and I think even beyond the scope of the Big East GP, X was a 3 seed in Miller's first season. It went tremendously well. I mean, that team, it didn't make the Final Four, but it was in a position like it made the second weekend, and it quickly was restored to prominence in a way that I know Xavier fans were really searching for. And now I wonder if not just it'll be a top 3 team in the Big East, but will it? And for the record, I don't have Xavier as a top 3 team in the Big East going into the season. But if it were to do that, and does it have top 20 stature? How quickly can Xavier really mean something nationally? Again, will it be able to do it? It's certainly got a chance, and I know this is and understandably so. This is the trendy, the chic pick to be the dark horse to win the league.
Yeah, I have Xavier 4th in the Big East, but 24th in the top 25 and 1. They did just lose a player for the season, Lucina Traore.
Yes, big hit.
Is it? You tell me.
Well, I'm only because Sean brought it up to me on Wednesday,
right.
And what he had been showing in practice and his presence as what I think that staff recognized as a vital rebounding presence on both ends. Like, I do think Xavier can overcome it, but I'll just tell you, like, losing him, I wound up docking Xavier, I don't know, 3 or 4 spots in my preseason 101 just because of it, because apparently it is the kind of thing where, yes, they can overcome it to an extent. It's not going to prevent them from being a tournament team, but now you got to tweak some stuff, and it was a necessary big body that they now don't have for the entire season.
Yeah, it's obviously not ideal. Xavier's a little bit like the Grizzlies of the NBA. It's not quite apples to apples, but you'll get my point. Like, you might not think about them because like they just didn't matter last season, but it was because they lost 2 very good college players for the entire season. Those people are back. I'm not saying Zach Fremantle's John Morant and Jerome Hunter is Marcus Smart or whatever, but I'm saying like the Grizzlies are going to go from one of the worst teams in the league to one of the best teams in the league simply because they just got players back. And that's what Xavier's doing too. Fremantle and Hunter both missed all of last season. Fremantle had foot surgery and Jerome Hunter had a heart attack. But he was practicing full contact into last season. So he's been going full speed for a while now. There's reasons Xavier fans should be optimistic. When you get two guys like that back, they've two guys who have been a part of some successful stuff. That's a great place to start. I've got, I probably should move Xavier down a little bit because of the loss of Traore, but I kept him in the top 25 and 1. I think that's going to be, one of the better teams in the Big East, and by extension, one of the better teams in the country.
Xavier had Fremantle and McKnight preseason, all Big East second team, and then Conwell third team. I think there's a chance Conwell leads X in scoring. We'll see on that. Get to the rest of the all-league teams when we make our award picks. Let's go NCAA tournament over under. How many teams from this conference are going to make the NCAAs? I'm gonna put the number 3 last season. It ain't gonna be 3 again. There's no way. I will put it. You might think I'm nuts here. I'm gonna put it at. I'm gonna put the over under at 5.5. Okay. Here is the preseason poll, and then GP, you can run through it. Preseason poll broke down like this: UConn was 1. Creighton was 2, Xavier 3. Creighton and Xavier were really close. And then Marquette, a firm 4th. We'll get to talking about those Golden Eagles in just a second here, MU fans. St. John's 5, Providence 6, Villanova 7, the Butler Bulldogs are 8, Georgetown 9, Seton Hall 10, and then DePaul, under first-year coach Chris Holtmann, expectedly brings up the caboose. How many are going? And if you wouldn't mind, if you've got it in front of you, if not, I've got you, buddy. What is your full 1 through 11 predicted order for the Big East?
I've got 6 teams from the Big East in the NCAA tournament: UConn, Marquette, Creighton, Xavier, Providence, and St. John's, with Villanova right there. If a 7th gets there, I would say it's Villanova. But I've got 6 teams in. Villanova 7th in the league, followed by Seton Hall, Butler, Georgetown, DePaul at 11.
I will go. I'm going to say 5. I'm going to say UConn.
You're a real hater.
I'm not a hater.
You're a real hater.
I'm trying to accurately project what's going to be here. All right. I'll have UConn in.
I think once you add all my stuff up, I got like a 75 team.
I'll have UConn in as a 2 seed.
Oh, you're a real hater.
I've got UConn 4th in the. I've got UConn 4th in the country heading into the season, but I think from a resume perspective, they'll be the best 2 seed.
So you think on paper they're a 4, but Dan's going to coach them down to a 2 seed?
No, it'll be forces outside of Dan's control that leads to 4 other programs.
Nothing is outside of Dan's control. Nothing is outside of Dan Hurley's control.
Well, it's outside of his control to have me as a 1 seed in the preseason. So there you go.
I'll
have St. John. UConn is a 2 seed. St. John's as a 3. I'll have UConn as the best 2 and St. John's as the worst 3. I'll have Marquette as a 4. I'll have Creighton as a 5, and give me Xavier as a 9. And then I'll have Providence as the first. I'll have Providence either as the first or second team out of the tournament. Then I've got Villanova, Butler, Seton Hall, Georgetown, DePaul. Let's talk
disrespecting Dan Hurley and Providence in the same, in like a 90-second span, buddy. Good luck. Good luck to your mentions.
I was born into this.
So you think thoughts and prayers to your mentions.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers to your mentions.
Yeah.
Hey, Iowa State fans, I'd like to introduce you to the Providence fans and Dan Hurley.
You know what you can do with your mentions? Just not look at them, GP. That's all you got to do. It's not that hard.
Oh no,
man, don't look at them.
What if somebody says something nice though? What if somebody tells you how funny you are?
You don't want to miss that. Filming and compliments on social media. You are doing a wonderful job living your life as a father and a husband.
Yeah. What I was told is you should seek
affirmation through the approval of strangers. That seems like a healthy way to go about your life.
That's what I heard. I heard you should, your wife and kids, that's important. But what you really need is people you'll never meet to tell you that was a nice column.
Nothing like Joey Fryer 3271 giving you a dap on social media to really improve your day.
That's right. That's right.
Marquette, no Tyler Kolek, no Oso Ighodaro, but they bring back plenty. Cam Jones was number 10 on our preseason top 101 players list. I know.
That's my little homie from Memphis. That's my little homie.
He's
from
not so
Memphis.
little. he's like a legit shooting guard, and mark me down for a couple of games here where Cam clearly hits above 30 points this season. Him, Stevie Mitchell, really good two-way player. They've got a lot coming back, and I didn't have Marquette in my preseason top 5 storylines because it's business as usual in Milwaukee, and for Shaka to have brought back David Joplin, Chase Ross, right, Ben Gold, a lot of key pieces back on this group, and no Kolek I think will make an impact because I think he was really critical, particularly as Shaka and that staff built something new there. But yeah, like a firm top 20 team should be very, very good again. It would genuinely surprise me if Marquette isn't one of the 3 best teams in the Big East and just a mainstay in the AP top 25 for most of the season.
Cam Jones, Big East Player of the Year. My little homie from Memphis.
You're getting ahead of yourself. Well, he's the I was gonna say he's the reigning. He's not. Devin Carter won it, but that's your pick. Okay, well, you're getting a little bit.
That's my pick.
Let's run down the rest of the teams real quick. Then we'll get to the awards. Creighton, Kalkbrenner, the preseason pick to win Big East Player of the Year, reigning 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and I think I had him 3rd overall on my personal top 101 players list. I think he is going to be a monster. I have been told that his improvement on the offensive end has been marketed. It has been very, very big. And for him to play alongside Stephen Ashworth, who didn't make our top 101 players list, he was comfortably on mine, but not on enough ballots to break through. I think Ashworth is going to be a really, really, really good old guy sniper in this league, and he'll do a tremendous job there. So Creighton, kind of similar to Marquette. I mean, they seem just well equipped to continue to be a very high impact team, and so the roster situations are very healthy in Milwaukee and Omaha, respectively. Providence, Bryce Hopkins is back. Kim English talked about that on our interview, getting closer and closer to being 100%. He might be. I asked English if he needed to be like the overall like MVP and one of the best players in the league to get Providence into the tournament. Kim kind of pushed back on that because he referenced some recent high performing teams and what their rosters were like across the board. I don't know. We'll see. There are some.
I don't like that he's not ready.
He's just not fully. He's probably going to get there, but yeah, I want to see how he comes back from the injury and see how that impacts. That's why I've got Providence just on the outside looking in. But we'll see on that. Butler's got a couple of.
It sucks in college basketball when an injury can mess up 2 seasons.
I know. Well, it's the nature of it sometimes, unfortunately.
It shouldn't be, though. It shouldn't be.
Butler is true sleeper material. We'll see. Pierre Brooks and Jameel Telford are both all Big East second team honorees. A couple of good forwards there. Thad Matta, you look at his track record as a coach, he's really good. And I wonder with Butler and Thad, like, is Butler just in a really tough spot in a high major league, and will it perpetually be trying to punch up and escape this preseason, number 7 through number 10 designation? Because it's there again, but Thad's a really good coach. And I think the Big East is going to be destined to have one team pop in here, whether it is Butler, whether it is Villanova, whether it's Providence, Georgetown, Seton Hall. Like I feel like one of those teams that we're not projecting to get into the tournament or easily into the tournament is going to wind up doing that. But I don't know. Bulldogs got they definitely have some talent. They have some players. They've got a good coach. I'm ready to see Butler be a bigger factor again. I anxiously await that. Seton Hall, I picked 10th in the league. Shaheen Holloway genuinely thrives as a head coach when people underestimate him and his guys. Now from a roster, I get it from a roster standpoint. You look at what Seton Hall has on its roster. You go around the rest of the league, and it's hard to get them above the 9 spot personally. But Shaheen's done a good job. To this point, he has done a good job, and that was a 25-win team a season ago. Now, they lose Richmond among some other pieces, but I can't help but think we're selling the Hall short there, GP. And then Georgetown and DePaul. I have no idea what to expect from Georgetown. Malik Mack comes in from Harvard. They've got a quality freshman coming in, Thomas Sorber. I just don't know, and I don't know if Cooley and that staff really are certain if that can be a team that can take a noticeable jump. Like, I put them in my preseason top 100 team list, but we'll see. And then DePaul with Chris Holtman, I was at a practice recently, and yeah, like I think DePaul's going to get double-digit wins. Just see how this goes. As I wrote on Wednesday, like, there's a chance Chris Holtman is the best hire DePaul has made since Ray Meyer. Like, that could ultimately prove to be the case. But
Hey, Joey, don't disrespect Joey like that.
I'm just saying there's a chance. There's a chance it's the case. But DePaul, I think, fairly in last place, as it's got a hodgepodge of transfer additions there, and we'll kind of see. So that's an overall look at each team. Let's get to our awards. Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year, Transfer of the Year. The official Player of the Year pick is Ryan Kalkbrenner from the league. That is also my pick. I took Kalkbrenner over Kaderi Richmond and Cam Jones. You're going Cam Jones?
Yeah, I'm loyal to the M.
Is that what people say in northern Mississippi?
That's what people say. I'm trying to speak it into existence. Memphis, my little homie from Memphis, Cam Jones, Big East Player of the Year. My little homie from Memphis, Matthew Morrell, SEC Player of the Year.
Okay.
You're trying to speak it into existence. I'm loyal to the M. You should be a little more loyal to the M than you show.
No, I'm good. I respect the M. I don't need to be loyal to the M.
I'm starting to question your loyalty to the M.
You can feel free to question that all day long. I'm not going to object to that. All right, you've got Cam Jones. Very realistic chance that happens. I think he has got a chance to be one of the. I mean, if he really gets the green light and comes out of his shell, he could be one of the must-watch players in the sport, man. I'm very excited to watch Cam Jones and Marquette this season. But I will go with Kalkbrenner because I think Kalkbrenner is going to be the National Defensive Player of the Year, and he's got a chance if he really puts it all together. Like, I think he's got a chance to average like 18 points, 9 boards, 3.5 blocks. And here's the other thing. I've had this in my Big East preview. He never gets in foul trouble. He is a big who's an elite defensive player that did not have a game last season with 4 fouls. That's outrageous. He's always on the floor. He's an ever-looming presence, and now he's an old dude. He got married in the offseason. Just a lot going for Big Kalk there. So I like his chances there. Freshman of the Year, there's no other choice. There's one guy and one guy only.
Liam McNeely.
The only top 30 freshman in the class of 2024 that is playing in the Big East. Liam McNeely for UConn.
That's right. And he's playing for Dan Hurley. So, like, it's going to be a lottery pick, I'm certain.
Got a good chance. And apparently it's just it's a match made in heaven in terms of McNeely's mental makeup and wanting to play in the system and thrive in it. So, he is expected to be one of the 2 or 3 most impactful players on that UConn roster. But we'll see. If you're looking for other ones, Ahmad Noel is actually the 2nd highest ranked player. He's also on UConn's roster in the class of 2024. Jackson McAndrew from Creighton's also pretty good talent, top 40 overall. But yeah, McNeely's the guy. Transfer of the Year. Got some good candidates. Who did you end up going with?
It's Kaderi Richmond, right?
Kaderi Richmond's my pick. I actually think Kaderi Richmond's got a chance to be a dark horse Player of the Year candidate nationally. I think if he's going to continue, let me bring up his stat line from last season because he put up buckets and numbers last season with Seton Hall. Kaderi Richmond. Hold on, let me bring it up here. I had him here for a second. He had 15.7 points, 7 rebounds, 5.1 assists, and 2.2 steals in 32.8 minutes per game. Not ultra efficient. Shot just 27% from 3 last season after shooting 44.4 the year before. But just does it all. And if he can do that and be efficient, he's got a chance. So I picked Richmond, but also consider Conwell at Xavier. And then I think Wooga Poplar should be almost as a necessary development, a pretty big statistical guy at Villanova. But there's a lot of guys to consider in this league.
So that does it for the Big East, I think.
Yeah, that's a big picture look at the Big East, but and we had this preview episode planned for a couple days here. We had travel, we had to get it done here, but I know we got to take a break here, GP. But obviously, this episode also lands coming off of some pretty tragic and terrible news that happened Thursday, and we want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, so let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll spend a few minutes on that.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
Sad news on Thursday down at USF. Amir Abdur-Rahim, the 43-year-old reigning AAC Coach of the Year, died in a Tampa area hospital following complications from a surgery. I'm sure more details will emerge in the coming days, but obviously just a sad deal. Norlander, we both knew this man. He's a wonderful basketball coach, sure. I think mostly known for what he did at Kennesaw State, that incredible turnaround in a span of 4 years. But by all accounts, also just a wonderful man, husband, father of 3. I don't really know what there is to say other than it's just heartbreaking, but it is heartbreaking.
Yeah, this was rattling, obviously, to hear. Obviously a very uncommon thing to lose, not just a sitting head coach, but a young sitting head coach, a rising star. I was actually convinced that I put South Florida in the vicinity of like a top 50 team heading into the season, which is higher than you'll find it probably anywhere else. But I genuinely believed that much in Amir's ability to get this South Florida program pretty good again, even after some pretty significant portal losses in the offseason. And I thought we would be talking about him come, next spring as one of the latest high major hires. I was pretty convinced that's the track that he was going to be taking if he didn't opt to stay and continue to build out South Florida, which frankly he did anyway, because he had a few interviews with some high major programs this past cycle, which is not uncommon for any young up and coming, very buzzy coach, and he had built up quite the reputation, in particular because he took Kennesaw State, which was not a good job, and went from 1 win in year 1 to making the tournament in year 4. It's the only time that's ever happened. There has never been an instance other than Amir Abdur-Rahim's Kennesaw State Owls where a team in a 4-year span went from 1 win to making the tournament. And he did that, got the South Florida job. Hello, year 1, 16-2 mark in league play. 25 wins last season with the Bulls. That was the first time that school had ever won that many. They won 15 games at home in a row. It was the first time that school had ever done that. And, rightfully so, as a coach, had developed a very good reputation for his ability to be a big culture flipper. And, I even put this in my, I think it was in my best of the rest, and we'll talk about the Bulls a bit more when we got to do our best of the rest preview next week. But even when you watched South Florida games last season, from that, that neon yellow green that the fans were wearing, you watched the games and it was different. That was a program for a long time that was a non-factor, a non-entity in Tampa, didn't bring hardly any juice, and Amir walks in and it just changes entirely. And this is so sad, so tragic, has 3 young children. And yeah, I knew him. I didn't know him extremely well, but I knew him a little bit, and I talked to him. I remember, I was at Peach Jam this summer, and go in, and he's standing there and just go talk to him. Desmond Oliver, his assistant, just make some small chat, small talk, and it's really really sad. This is one that is affecting a lot of people, and because although he hasn't been at a high major as a head coach, like he hasn't been one of the most recognizable names, but it speaks to the community and fraternity of college basketball that he was a coach for 18 years, a really good player in the Southland Conference, and had developed a lot of connections and just a very very good reputation. He spoke, every year the University of Florida has something of a coaches clinic that happens every summer in August, and he spoke down there. And when I had found out before, you hear this, it wasn't public yet, you don't want it to be true, but someone who was at that Florida clinic and watched and saw Amir speak, it was just like in disbelief over the fact that this had happened. And then I heard from someone else who was also at that Florida clinic that he spoke at. And I know him from, he did studio work at CBS Sports Network, and on our website with his obituary, I made sure to include his press conference from 2023 when he was introduced. Just a really, really good speech. In fact, I had an agent reach out to me yesterday who did not represent Amir, and said, I respected this guy so much, and when one of my clients got a job this past cycle, the only speech that I went to watch to help my guy kind of prepare for what he wanted to say was Amir in 2023 with South Florida, because it was that good. He was the only one that I needed to watch. If you're unaware, he was the younger brother of Sharif Abdur-Rahim, who obviously spent more than a decade in the NBA. And we send nothing but the best energy possible to his loved ones, his wife, and his three children. He's got 2 daughters and a son. But so just so tragic, so terribly unfortunate. And as we record this at this hour, GP, we await for more tributes, memorials. Season starts in just a week and a half, and for that team and for those players, this is just absolutely terrible. Coincidentally enough, they're actually scheduled to open the season playing against the Florida Gators. So just awful stuff, GP.
Yeah, like I had worked with Sharif at CBS Sports Network before I met Amir, but then got to know Amir, and he worked with us after Kennesaw State was eliminated from that NCAA tournament. I think we brought him in for the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, and he was in studio with us, and just a really impressive guy. Like, obviously a wonderful basketball coach. I mean, in year 1, they finished 352nd at KenPom. By year 4, it was at 123. So they improved 229 spots from year 1 to year 4. And then, of course, he goes to South Florida. The year before he got there, they go 14-18 overall, 7-11 in the AAC in his one season, 25-8 overall, 16-2 in the AAC, finished 87th at KenPom, wins a conference championship. He coached 1 year at USF and is responsible for the only conference championship in program history. So the basketball stuff is obvious. I was more impressed by the guy I was just around. Like, I sometimes talk about people in this way. Like, okay, sure, he's a great basketball coach, but is this the type of person you'd want your son to play for? Is this the type of person you'd like to live next door to you? If this person had a 7-year-old who played baseball, is this the type of person you would want your 7-year-old to be on a team with? Like, all that type of stuff. He checked all those boxes. Just a really impressive guy. How about this? As recently as past couple of months, when some of this, Memphis stuff is getting chaotic, and because of where I live, people would say, hey, if this thing doesn't go the right way and they have to make a coaching change, who would you look at?
Yep.
And I
had the same exact conversation. Yep.
And I brought up Amir. I said I would look. I didn't only say him, but I was like, if you give me 3 people to look at, he was an obvious. Yeah.
Well, not just because of who he is and the character he is, but he meant a lot to a lot of people. A very a stand-up guy and a rising coach in the Black coaches fraternity, and I think his ascendance meant a lot to a lot of people. And yes, I mean, whatever does or doesn't happen at Memphis is kind of irrelevant to this, but it's interesting that you bring that up because it was literally earlier this week when I was having a phone conversation with someone in the industry, non-media, non-coach, and as the Memphis, because there was just issues, and it's like, if this doesn't go well, like, what are the names here? And this person was like, Amir's probably the best one that you could possibly put there. And again, that's not to say like South Florida's community is obviously grieving heavily. Now, we're not trying to have pushed him on to a different job. This is the reality. He had an incredible reputation, was building out something really, really good at South Florida. And when you are as well regarded as Amir Abdur-Rahim, you are going to get the attention of people at institutions that want to employ you, that want to pay you handsomely to come do at their place what you've done at other places. It speaks very well of his reputation as a coach, but really as a human being and as a man. And gone at 43, that is that's my age. That is a jarring thing. And yeah, I mean, human life existence is as incredible as it is fragile, and that is a maybe the most humbling thought of all, that he was here and now he's not. And we send nothing but the best to everyone that knew and loved him.
Obviously, thoughts with his family and, everybody in that South Florida community and those young men who, came to Tampa to play for him and now are going to never get to do that again. Let's get out of here. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Terry Teagle, legend. Huck Larnell, thank you guys once again for listening to and watching the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go do that anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, more of us than there are of them. That needs to be reflected in the comments. So do that. We'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.